We'll take you now back to the Menswick Grand Hotel. The minority spokesperson on finance, who's also a member of that panel they've put together, is speaking.
Isaac raised very important point, and it's important for us to discuss them in detail. Colleagues, panelists, I wish to say that, unfortunately, the way this administration is trying to manage this economy, unfortunately, they are permanently trapping us within the spirit of populism and lies. And Your Excellency, let me say that your next administration will have a lot of work to do. We will need to reset the entire fiscal framework, reset the entire monetary framework before we can roll out our policies. I recommend that your team start immediately to work, because indeed, the way this administration is trying to manage this economy is not the best, and we will end up destroying the fundamentals of the economy. But let me say that my presentation today will be very brief. I will touch on some of the things that Isaac has discussed and delve a bit deeper into some of the things Isaac has talked about. I will spend about 2 minutes to talk about the exchange rate and show the same slides and some more of what Honorable Isaac Adonko talked about. I will then move on and talk about the facts versus the lies. And colleagues, you recall that when the Vice President was speaking, he said, you can hold me accountable to any data that you disagree. Today, my job here is to hold him accountable to the data. And I will prove to you that our Vice President is a liar and has been lying to us. So that is what I will do. And then finally, I will delve on to some of the deceptions that we've been seeing and the populism, some of the populist policies that are being implemented, and they'll continue to implement them. So, Mr. Can you please show the slides, please? Let me take you to the slides. Move on to Honorable Isaac delve a bit on these slides. And you will notice that if you are to compare 20 countries, or all the countries in Africa, you see Ghana at the bottom in terms of our currency, showing clearly, and this is coming from the Bloomberg terminal. Those who have access to Bloomberg terminal can verify this data. Ghana happens to be the worst or the cheapest currency ever in Africa. In fact, this is information from Bloomberg terminal for the year to date. So you don't see that as a good picture at all. Again, yesterday I heard His Excellency the Vice President talk about the fact that the cedi has depreciated only about 5% in the first 3 months of the year. I beg to say that that is a lie. That is a lie, and this is coming from Bloomberg terminal. Let me show you something. On the Bloomberg terminal, you will notice here that Bloomberg is saying that the cedi has depreciated year to date by 12.42%. So I'm not the one saying it. This is coming from Bloomberg. And you will see the spot and then the change. This is the net change. And that's it, and the percentage is 12.42%. So I'm not the one saying it. This is coming from Bloomberg. Again, our Vice President has lied to us, and it's for all of us to see. And you see that it's called a depreciation of the cedi year to date, 12.24%. Unfortunately, he failed to discuss what is actually happening to the cedi. He gave a logic that I found to be very irrational and cannot be comprehended with. I'll move on to the next slide and talk about the performance of the currency. You notice that Isaac discussed this, and if you were to compare the worst performing currencies and then compare the best performing currencies, again, Ghana happens to be the worst in terms of the last four. If you were to take the Argentinian peso, the Haitian, and then that of the Turkish currency, Ghana's currency happens to be the worst in the world, the fourth worst currency in the world, 144 out of 146 currencies monitored by Bloomberg. So I'm not the one saying it. This is an independent entity talking about the performance of our currency. I think it's something that we should all be worried about and be paying much attention to it. I will move on to some of the facts versus the lies that I talked about. Again, if you are to read the Vice President's address, he spoke for about an hour and presented to us about 110 pages of document. I've taken the pen to read through some of the documents, in fact, through the entire document. Unfortunately, he started lying from page 3. Page 3, that is when the lies started. And on the minute, he started lying on the 6 minute, 15 seconds. So that is when the lies started, out of the entire 1.5 hour speech. So the lies wasn't good. And let me quote from him what he said. He said here, paragraph 6, the first lie. I will take you through the rest of the lies. The first lie, he said that the economy ended in 2012 with a fiscal deficit of 12.2% of GDP, 11.7% in 2013, 11.9% in 2014, before falling to 6.7% in 2015, but rose again to 9.3% in 2016. This is the words according to our Vice President. But we know data don't lie. According to the Ministry of Finance, again, if the guy can show me, you'll see that official data from the Ministry of Finance indicated clearly that the overall fiscal deficit, the overall balance, by end of year 2017 was 7.8%, not the 9.3% that the Vice President is talking about. So clearly you've seen the lies there. But what surprises me is that he picked new series of GDP and then for their time, because the denominator obviously is bigger, and pick old series under the NDC to show a negative impression. Even if you are to compare that, you will notice that on the new series, the fiscal deficit we left behind is 6.1% of GDP, new series GDP, and can never be seen as 11.3% of GDP. Even if it's old, it's 7.8. So I don't know what he's talking about. And what I'm saying is that if anyone here doubts me, I've given the link. You can go to http://mofep.gov.gh/fiscal data. You will see all this information. This is on the Ministry of Finance website. I'm not lying. I've given my source, the government official website, so you can check. Please take me to the next page. Take me to the next page. And this is really serious. You will notice that this is what the Vice President claims that the fiscal data is. And then this is what the official data from the Ministry of Finance. He claims in the year 2013, we had 11.7% fiscal deficit, but actually the official data says it's 10.1% of GDP as fiscal deficit. If you are to translate this into the new series, it's indeed 7.6%, but not 11.7%. Again, another lie. You come here 2014, he claims that the fiscal deficit was 11.9%. If you are to look at official data from the Ministry of Finance, and I have the source here, it says it's 10.2%. If you are to translate it into new series, it's 7.4%. Another lie. 2015, he's saying it's 6.7%. If you are to look at the Ministry of Finance, official data for Ministry of Finance, in fact, let me reiterate this point. This data was actually uploaded to the Ministry of Finance website this year by this administration. So I did not upload this statement. It is coming from the government of the day. He says that 2015, it was 6.7, but it's 6.3. In fact, and the new series is 4.9% of GDP. And then 2016, he went out to say that it's negative, it is 9.3% of GDP. Anytime you see negative, then it means it's a deficit. If it's a positive, then it's a surplus. So you see something here. But in this 9.3, he is reporting the actual numbers there is 7.8. But if you were to use the new series, the amount there is 6.1% of GDP. What he did was, in 2017 and 2018, he decided to stick with the numbers there, being the new series numbers, 4.8 and 3.8. So you can see the dishonesty and the lies coming from our vice president. But I only want to caution His Excellency the Vice President that you cannot be the head of economic management team and decide to lie with fiscal data. Impossible. You can't do that. Because when you are to do that, you are harming the very economy you claim to be the head. You are harming it. No wonder yesterday the cedi depreciated or moved. Because the market will analyze these lies and see that something is wrong and obviously will react negatively. What this means is that tomorrow, if you are a businessman and you are to go out there to buy something, you will need more dollars than what you used to have before the vice president speaks. So I will urge His Excellency the President to maybe restrain his vice president from talking, because anytime he speaks, the currency will move because of the lies. I will ask him to do that. And then finally, let me take you to another data. Another data, you heard him yesterday, he disputed the claim that the central bank indeed did not intervene in using our hard-earned foreign currency to show the cedi. Unfortunately, that is not the case. He's once again been exposed, and it shows that it's a lie. Before I take you to the numbers, please show me the next graph. I'll show you the next item. If you see here, you see this is the Bank of Ghana's official data, external sector development, cumulative. And this data is from, I downloaded this from Bank of Ghana as at yesterday. And you can see it from their website. It is still there. In fact, they cannot change it because it will show us distortion. And the best they could do is to shut the website down. But I doubt they will shut the website down. Let me show you something. As of December 2018, that's the numbers. What you have there is the net international reserves. So the net international reserves is here, 3.8 billion cedis. And you see where we've circled. This January 2019 and December 2019, these numbers actually from 3.8 billion reduced to 3.173 billion. It shows clearly that an amount of 700 million and over was used for the purposes of intervening in the currency. So if he's saying he did not use the money for the purposes of intervention, he should tell us where the money is. Unless he tells us it's somebody's pocket. But obviously, I know they use it for the purposes of intervention. So you could see that data does not lie. He is actually lying to all of us. And his credibility has now been brought to question. And finally, I talk about the deception. The deception about the 50% and the 30% reductions in the import levies. Unfortunately, if you are to listen to him, he created the impression that from today, if you are to go to the port, what is going to happen to you is that the goods that you used to clear yesterday, you are going to get a 50% rebate. And then if you are to clear a vehicle, what you used to pay yesterday, you are to get approximately 30% rebate. In other words, in numerical terms, let me put it this way. If you are to clear a container, 40-footer container of goods, you are to pay 20,000 Ghana cedis in the past. If you are to pay 20,000 Ghana cedis in the past, from today, you would have paid 10,000 Ghana cedis. And then if you are to clear a vehicle, say 100 Ghana cedis, you are going to pay 70 Ghana cedis. That is not true. Unfortunately, I only wish to caution Ghanaians that please don't celebrate as yet, because another Abosokai is on the way. Another Abosokai deception is on the way. They are lying to us. It is just a populist policy, and it will get nowhere. And I give you an example. What they intend doing is that they have informed all of us that they are going to reduce the benchmark values. Unfortunately, the benchmark values itself is illegal. The Customs Act 2015, and Your Excellency, you introduced this Customs Act. Your cabinet passed this Customs Act. I was really instrumental in taking this to Parliament. And if you are to look at Section 67 and 68, it talks about valuation, customs valuation. Section 66 and 67, and particularly 68. 67 talks about the fact that the only option that customs can use for the purposes of valuation is what we call invoice values. Invoice values, not benchmark values. Customs, the Act in Section 68 introduced exceptions. And the exceptions is where somebody brings in something, and unfortunately, customs thinks that they are trying to undercut or launder money into the economy. Then they will apply for the purposes of risk management, what is known as customs valuation. In other words, database values. People call it benchmark valuation. But the benchmark valuation itself, as we speak, it is illegal. The World Trade Organization frowns on it. And again, the World Customs Organization does not accept it. If you are to implement benchmark valuation, they can even sanction you. So this act that your administration introduced outlawed benchmark valuation. So what if customs is actually implementing benchmark valuation now? It is illegal according to Act 891, and somebody can take them to court. What they have done here is that they are telling all of us that indeed this is going to result in a reduction. Unfortunately, it will not result in a reduction. Let me give you a scenario. If I'm to bring in an item, goods, worth 100 Ghana cedis, and then customs says that, let me use a smaller amount so that it be very simple. I bring in a goods that I would say it cost per my invoice is 4 Ghana cedis. And customs says that, no, I disagree with you. The 4 Ghana cedis, the item can be more than the 4 Ghana cedis, but indeed it's 6 Ghana cedis. Customs will now say that they are going to apply 6 Ghana cedis on the item. Now, what customs have done is that, or what this policy seeks to do is that they are now saying the 6 Ghana cedis, they are going to give you 50% rebate. The rebate is not on the 6 Ghana cedis, but it's on the difference between the 6 and then the 4. So simply is the 2 that they are going to give you 50% rebate. That rebate will mean that they are going to apply the charges, being the import duties, on 5, but not 6. Or on 5, but not 3. His Excellency, the Vice President, is creating impressions that that is going to be applied on 3. I don't think he understands taxation, and maybe somebody must point him to the right direction. He does not understand taxation. But I wish to say that per the calculations that we have done, clearly, this benchmark valuation will not reduce import duties by 50% and 30%. In fact, the impact will be negligible. The impact will be negligible. It will not be substantial. Per my calculation, it will not exceed 5%. It will not exceed 5%. And it is also clear for us to understand that most of the goods that we clear does not, the benchmark values does not apply. From my checks, customs are only applying benchmark valuations on items such as cement, because they think that people are bringing cement into the economy that is far cheaper than what GASM is producing. So they apply benchmark valuation looking at the trend of the prices of cement. And then they have come to, so it will not be that significant. But I will also wish to say that even that 5% that I'm talking about will be eroded as and when the cedi depreciates. And by the end of the year, it won't be 5% positive, but it's going to be negative 15% if the cedi depreciates by the rate at which it's going. In other words, what I'm trying to say is that if today you used to pay 20 Ghana cedis, and then this benchmark valuation policy has reduced your rate by 5%, don't be happy yet. That 5% by June, you will get back to 20%, and by December, you end up paying maybe 25,000. Because clearly the cedi is depreciating, and then the customs values are actually indexed to the US dollars. So whatever you bring in, it will be indexed to the US dollars before the percentages will be applied to it. So nobody should celebrate as yet. It's another populist policy that is going to, in fact, surprise Ghanaians, and I'm sure Ghanaians will say,
thank you very much.
As always, the man
tricks
us. Yes, trick us. Thank
Honorable Atoforsen for that explanation. We move on to Honorable Fifi Kwete, who would address in very comprehensive terms the NDC record. and put to rest the vaunted claims of superior performance by the MPP. So, Honorable Fifi, the ball is in your court.
Thank you very much, Felix. And let me begin by acknowledging the former president. We greet you. And former colleagues, our leaders of the NDC, all the great comrades of the NDC, media men, and ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. A lot to say, but short minutes, so we'll make it very brief. All right, thank you very much. Anytime you hear the NPP declare that somehow the mismanagers of this economy are the NDC, and they actually are the brilliant people who have really done exceptional performance, it makes me smile. You know, in my language, there is a saying that "Jakpataba de viomanyakuo." What it means, simple term, is that the venomous viper says little children don't know death. That's why they play with death. Because our record compares to theirs, you can't even come close. Now let me just go through just a few. Under the great leadership of John Mahama as the head of the economic management team, it took us between 2009 to 2012, that's 4 years, and the total amount of money we borrowed for that period stood at 23 billion. We took it from 10 billion where President Kufuor left it. I'm talking about cities, 10 billion cities where President Kufuor left it. And we actually ended up by the close of the 4th year at about 33. So that's 23 billion. Now, at the end of that period, we actually can talk about having, for example, built the Takwa Hospital, having done the Takoradi T3 power project, having been able to construct about 18 three-story building schools, about over 1,000 school under trees projects that have been done. And that's just a few of the many things that you can show for just 23 billion within that period. Our friends within 2 short years, and I'm being conservative, have borrowed 53 billion cedis, 2 short years. Ours for 4 years, 23, 2 years, 53. Ask them to show one hen coop that they have started from scratch to finish. They can't point it. They can't point to a school that they have started from scratch to finish. Not to a hospital from scratch to finish. 53 billion. And yet they claim their performance is better than ours. At the time we took over in 2009, under the economic management of John Mahama, we met the gallon of petrol at 5 cities. And in 8 long years, it ended at 14 cities, a difference of about 9 cities. Our friends took over in 2017 and met it at 14 cities. And within 2 and 3 months, it's gone from 14 cities to 24, a difference of 10 cities. We moved from 5 to 14, 9 in 8 long years. Within 3 months, they've actually taken it from 14 to 24, 10 city difference. And yet, they claim they are better than us. Our friends met, at the time we took over in 2009, we met inflation at 18%. And because of the difficulties they left behind, inflation quickly ran up to 21% by May 2009. Under the leadership of John Mahama, I'm talking about economic leadership of John Mahama, we brought it from 21% in May, and within 12 months, by June of 2010, we brought it from 21 into single digits. 12 months. 12 short months, from 21 into single digits. They met it at 15.4 in 2017. And after 1 long year, do you know where they brought it? They brought it from 15.4 to 13.3. That's less than, just about 2% drop. We took it from 21 down into single digits. And when we achieved that, we did not just achieve that. We kept it at single digit for 33 long months, back to back, the highest in the history of Ghana. When they finally struggled from January all the way to somewhere May 2018 and finally entered into single digits. After just, I think, 1 month, it quickly jumped back into double digits. They couldn't even sustain it. It had to take another 2-3 months before finally they brought it down. But even now, you can see they're still struggling to get out. And yet, these people claim they are better managers of the economy than we are. At the time we took over in 2009, Treasury bill rate stood at 26%. By November 2011, under the economic management of John Mahama, we brought it from 26% down to 9.2% in November 2011. 9.2% by November 2011. They took over Treasury bill rate to 26. No, we brought it actually down for them to 16%. And guess what? Today, Treasury bill 91, the Treasury bill stands at 14.7%. From what? 16% to 14.7%. Something that we took from 26 all the way down into 9.2 within a matter of maximum 3 years. They are struggling, 14.7. Yet they claim they are better managers of the economy than we are. Even in 2016, with all the difficulties we were facing, Treasury bill rate at the beginning of the year was about 26% because of the difficulty that single spine brought, which caused a lot of difficulty, which they always want to run away from. But we still brought it from 26% down to 16% within maximum 9 months. They are struggling almost getting 2.5. They can't even take it below 14.7. Yet they claim they are better. Non-oil GDP, at the time we were leaving office, in terms of growth, stood at 4.6%. And we had done all the necessary things that needed to be done. We have resolved doomsday. Something that governments, from 1992 all the way, could not resolve. We took how many? Maximum 3 short years and brought doomsday to an end. Banish it. Unprecedented in the history of Ghana. And handed it over to you. And yet in 2017, the non-oil growth stood at the same 4.6%. And yet these people claim they are better than we are. In spite of difficulties we faced between 2013 to 2016, and those were very difficult days, largely because of the sacrifice, not us in government, but all of us as a country made for the sake of the public sector workers of Ghana. That saw a situation where we had a jump from public sector wage from 2.5 billion a year upward to, by the time we were living, it was almost about 11 to 12 billion cedis a year. No government has ever had to brace that. We had to make this sacrifice for Ghana. That's where a lot of difficulties came. In spite of those difficulties, we kept rice importation in this country, by the time we were living, to a range of between $400 million to about $500 million. They have come, guess where the rice importation figure is? Not my figure, their own figure, $1.16 billion. Something we kept in spite of the difficulties we went through. Maximum $500 million. You've actually gone 2 times more within a short space of 2 years. Depreciation of the currency. In 2016, despite all our difficulties, we kept the cedi depreciation at 9.6%. If you check the numbers properly, from January all the way to about September, it was depreciated by maximum 4%. I think it was in the last 3 months that we had a little difficulty. That took it up to 9.7. At that time, the total, even though my brother Jinapa will be talking more about it, the total amount of money we got from crude oil production stood about roughly $230 million. They took over in 2017. We handed you 2 massive oil fields that actually took production from the region of about 70,000 barrels a day to upward towards 180,000 barrels a day. And in spite of this massive thing we handed over to you, your depreciation by the end of 2018 was almost the same as our depreciation, 8.4, not too far from the 9.6 that we were having despite our struggles. And yet you claim you are better than we are. Remember in 2009, when we took over, we actually, within a matter of 2 years, brought the depreciation of the currency, which ended the year 2008 about 20%, 20.2%. And even so, with the 20.2%, the only reason why it stopped at 20.2% under their watch was because they had to sell Ghana Telecom in order to hold the city. And despite that, the problem left a situation where for the first 5 months when we came into office, city ran for 18% depreciation more because of the difficulties they left behind. You add together, that's almost approaching 40%. We brought it from that level to down to 3% depreciation achieved under John Mahama. In spite of all their boasts, they have never been able to achieve this 3%, which we achieved. But today, you know what they do? They conveniently forgot that we had John Mahama as the head of economic management team between 2009 and 2012. And the achievement scored then was under his watch. They ran away from that difficulty. That's how very dishonest they are. Cocoa production. 2011, under President Mahama, Vice President Mahama's economic management, we took cocoa production to 1 million metric tons, the highest in our history. And again in 2016, we handed to them cocoa output that stood at about 960,000 metric tons. That's almost close to 1 million again, handed over to them. They have subsequently taken over. They are struggling to get close to that 960,000. Yeah, they claim they are better than we are. In 2011, we actually scored the highest growth in the history of Ghana, 14.4%. Often they like to say, oh, it was because of oil. No. The non-oil growth was minimum 8%. It tells you we're talking about comprehensive growth. Not the kind of koshoko one that we saw in 2017. That was largely because of what you call crude oil that we handed over to them. And non-oil was nothing to write home about. We actually had a comprehensive growth. These are records we have scored. And yet we don't go boasting. And people who are not close to that record today actually make a lot of noise. My brother Adongo spoke a lot about the capital expenditure as a percentage of GDP, which at the time we were living in office of 4.5. They have taken over, they've actually taken it down to below 2%. And when a country is actually having problems, we're having what you call investment in infrastructure and development expenditure, that country actually is mortgaging the growth for the future. And that's exactly where it is we have reached with them. Now let me just finish quickly. 2 minutes are here, no problem. In 2016, when we were leaving office, a company such as Sonitra, and Sonitra are into road construction, and they've been in this country for so many years. The number of workers Sonitra had at the close of 2016 when we were leaving office was about 1,000 workers. By the end of 2017, when our friends took over, Sonitra's manpower number had reduced from 1,000 down to 50. And I'm not talking just about Sonitra. You can talk about the same thing that is happening in many, many other places that are on their knees. While they are busy trumpeting and singing praises about their great performance, companies are struggling to survive. Workers are being laid off. Media establishments that we know that actually were doing well during our time have started retrenching as well. And it's happening all over. Not to talk about what's happening in the banking sector. Yet, these people claim they are actually better than we are. Let me just finalize by saying this. That our friends obviously do not know what a solid economy is. Because you see what? An economy that was handed over to you at the end of 2016 that had gross reserves standing at about $6.2 billion. When we actually took over in 2009, the gross reserves stood at $2 billion. Months of import cover was 1.8 months. Very paltry. We handed over to you $6.2 billion. And you said our economy is bad. We handed over to you a sinking fund that had 530 million cedis. When we took over, we had what you call debt of TOR, about 1.5 billion. We had to look for money to pay. That was threatening to collapse Ghana Commercial Bank. And we actually came and did that. We took over Gang of 4 roads that they had. They couldn't even do. We came and did it for them. We handed over to you ESLA. And on an annual basis, ESLA gives this country minimum 3 billion cedis. We handed that over to you. in order to be able to help you. But you turn around and tell us that we actually have done nothing. We handed over to you an economy that had actually finished with subsidies. That actually is a legacy. No other government in the history of government, Ghana, has been able to resolve it. We resolved it. Banished subsidies in our history and handed that over to you. We handed over to you a balance of payment surplus. We took over a twin deficit, both fiscal deficit and balance of payment deficit. That's what we took over. You had a balance of payment surplus, the first in several years, handed over to you. Yet you claim nothing has been achieved. I don't want to go into the infrastructure legacy we left. I think enough is known about that in every corner. From education to water to hospitals to everywhere you go. Everywhere you go. We fought. The money that we have borrowed. They, up to today, 53, nothing to show. So whenever you hear them tell you that they actually are better, please have a smile. They are just literally joking. Now, the last thing I want to tell you is this. When we heard Dr. Bawumia yesterday claim that in 2014, he actually made a certain statement relating to if you do propaganda with the economy, the exchange rate will expose you. Actually, Dr. Bawumia was lying blatantly to Ghana. And let me tell you why. That statement was not made in 2014. That statement was made on 2nd May 2012 at the Ferdinand Aim lectures. That's when he made that statement. The question is, why do you think Dr. Bawumia would deliberately lie about the year? There's a reason why. There's a reason why. Because you see, at the time he was speaking in 2012, he knew exactly that we actually had the most remarkable fundamentals. 14.4% growth. CD had depreciated maximum 4.9. Single digit was about 18% into a continuous back-to-back. We have brought treasury bill rate down to 9.2. You can just call them over and over. Cocoa outputs were over 1 million, was over 1 million metric tons. He knew that the fundamentals were strong. That's why he went to make that pronouncement. But when he realized that yesterday, if he went to 2012, people would say, but the fundamentals were so good. Why did you criticize it? He deliberately came and mentioned 2014. You see, minimum credibility. If you swear the oath of office and you cannot even tell the truth to the country, you actually dishonor this high seat of the vice presidency. Thank you very much.
Still on Joy News is our live coverage of the NDC's rebuttal, if you may, of what happened yesterday at the town hall meeting addressed and led by the Vice President of the Republic of Ghana, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. What's happening now is that members of a panel they've put together are responding to various issues addressed by the Vice President and also within the economy. We've been hearing a lot of rebuttals. The NDC is basically saying that the MPP is not a good manager of the economy. Let's take you back there at this point. Give Town Rapia takes over. Thank you for staying with us Tuesday.
With your permission, I want to go into the arena of the president himself and deal with him a little bit. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to do more of the energy mix because just when I picked my phone, somebody sent me a message that, Honorable Jinafo, it's unfortunate I cannot listen to you because my lights have been out since morning. And so I just want to give you some few information and statistics. And so if you look at what the MPP said, I'll be a bit fast. They claim that they inherited a weak economy. They said excess capacity, we are paying so much. They claim that we give them fuel challenges. And so I want to whilst dealing with these challenges, increase access to electricity, and then you scale up renewable energy, but more importantly, pursue reforms within that sector so that the gains you make are not eroded. These are the thematic areas President Mahama sought to undertake. But I quickly want to deal with some misnomer. The MPP have always said they have excess capacity, and so we shouldn't have them, so it's financial. In 2007, and this from the Energy Commission, we had an installed capacity of 1,985 megawatts.
Our peak demand was 1,274 megawatts. It means that we had an excess capacity of 711 megawatts. And yet, we had done so for 1 year under the MPP in 2007. I am putting this across for you to understand that having excess capacity alone is not enough. For instance, if you have hydropower and your capacity is about 1,400 and the elevation is very low, no amount of money can raise the water. You can only achieve about 30%. And so what President Mahama did was to deal with the generation capacity. And these are some of the plans President Mahama pursued. President Mahama brought in Ameri, he brought in Car Power, he brought in AXA, he brought in KTPP, he brought in Trojan, he brought in BX Solar Energy, and these are the plans. These are GE Frame 9 state-of-the-art plans. Most of them, all the plants President Mahama brought, they are biofuel or dual fuel plants. It's a deliberate and calculated attempt so that when you don't have light crude oil, you can switch to gas. Some of them, when you don't have gas, you can switch to distillate fuel. If you have distillate fuel, you can switch to heavy fuel oil. It gives you that flexibility in order to deal with the challenge head on. Let's go on. And so you see Ameri there, you see the solar power, you see Car Power, you see AXA there, you see President Mahama commissioning the Asogle power plant when it was completed. And this is pictorial. Let's go on. So in 2017, despite all the complaints, this is what Ken Oforiatta had to say about you, President Mahama. A total of 880 megawatts of power capacity was added to the country's installed generation capacity as at year end 2016 to bring the installation capacity from 1,900 to 4,132 megawatts. Let's go on. So you more than double the capacity. Then you sought to also deal with the fuel challenge. Because when you have the generation plants, you must power them with fuel. Fuel was a major issue for us. So under your administration, what you did was to put in place the Atuabo gas processing plant. Then through your instrumentality, you gave us 3 FPSOs. FPSO Kwame Nkrumah, FPSO Atamils, and FPSO John Ejekum Kufuor under your administration. And these are the FPSOs. Everything I talk about, I want to pick pictorial evidence so you see what we are talking about. Today, because of the gas infrastructure that you brought, we have guaranteed gas supplies to our power plants. We have reduced light crude oil importation. We are saving so much money through import substitution. We are having improved generation capacity and efficiency because we are using gas. And when you do that and you save money, you are stabilizing your local currency. When you have indigenous gas, you are boosting your local economy and supplying to industries. And then today, because of the gas infrastructure, LPG gas that we used to import, today we generate and produce more than half of the LPG that this country consumes because of this. So in 2016, we imported 456.9 kilotons of light crude oil. Because of the gas infrastructure, in 2017, it reduced to 178 under Akufo-Addo, meaning that we had reduced light crude imports by 61%. When you reduce light crude by 61% and substitute with gas, and you do the calculation, you are making a saving of $300 million per annum because of what you've done. Let's go. Then President Mahama said, look, I'm dealing with generation, I'm dealing with fuel, but let me tackle the financial challenges head on. And when we talk of legacy debt, we are talking of debt that transcends from 1992 till the time President Mahama decided, look, enough of this, let's deal with it head on. So he instituted what you call the energy sector levy. In 2016, we got 3.5 billion. 2017, we got 3.2 billion. President Mahama also said that, look, let's institute or install a lot of solar prepayment meters. So he gave a cash amount of 80 million for us to buy prepayment meters for ECG, so that you put them at the various institutions to reduce the leakage. Then he initiated what you call the cash waterfall to ensure that when you receive revenues, there's a fair way of distributing the revenues to the utilities. And so let me tell you what happened. I heard President Akufo-Addo indicate that President Mahama did nothing. He only inherited liabilities. This is SF report of the energy sector levy for the year 2016. This was presented by Ken Oforiatta, not me. And you can check paragraph 39, paragraph 32, page 17 of the report. This is what he said. And as I said, paragraph 32, page 13. For the period under review, 787 million was utilized for the payment of power utility debts. So in 2016 alone, President Mahama paid almost 800 million Ghana cedis of the legacy debt when he decided that he would deal with the debt head on. Then, as if that is not enough, they've always told us that, look, it's all liability, liability. This is what Ken Oforiatta says. And it's in paragraph 36. In summary, total lodgements into the established accounts amounted to 1.6 billion against total utilization of 1.4 billion. This means that when you were leaving office as president, you left a cash amount sitting in that account, 234 million, bequeathed it to Akufo-Addo as an asset. Ladies and gentlemen, now let's go on. Then you see 189 million was used to help TOR. So that TOR will buy fuel when the prices are very low. When the prices go up, TOR BOST will then release the fuel. So BOST kept keeping strategic stock. They watch the market. When fuel prices come low, they buy. When it goes high, then they release it. That is why in 2016, you didn't see the level of increment in terms of petroleum price, because we planned it, we managed it, and we executed it. Today, I am telling Ghanaians, and I'm challenging the minister to deny that BOST has no strategic stock in their tanks. If we face any challenge today, this country will go down because we don't have the required 8 to 12 weeks of strategic stock in their tanks. We used to do that. This is the true state of the energy sector, as I said. President Mahama, these are some of your achievements. I've elaborated on them. Because of time, let me move on. And then I talked about the access to electricity. They are always complaining that there's excess capacity. We knew what we're doing. Because we knew we're bringing in additional capacity, President Mahama thought that we should scale up on access. So that as generation is coming, you increase the access rate and then they consume the power. So when we took over, access rate was 54%. By the time we left office, we had increased it from 54 to 83.24%. It means that on the average, we're increasing electricity every year by 4%. Let's go. And this is confirmed by the minister in his statement, in the budget statement. Please, let's roll over. Now, I'll just talk about the previous slide. Because of the works you did, Ghana today exports 2.8 billion worth of crude oil, whilst importing 1.7 billion worth of crude oil. When you the net, it means that Ghana is a net positive exporter of more than $1 billion of oil because of the work you did. We talked about the receipts from petroleum resources. This is a graph just to let you know what happened. In 2016, President Mahama got 900 million cedis from petroleum resources, total. 2017, Akufo-Addo got 2.3 billion, more than double what President Mahama got. As of September 2018, he had gotten 2.7 billion. So the question is that, having received more than double what President Mahama has done, can Akufo-Addo show us one project, just one project, that he has also been able to achieve over the past 2 years compared to President Mahama? And these are some of the other achievements. You passed the Petroleum Revenue Management Act, you passed the Exploration Act, you passed the local content legislation, you passed the Gas Master Plan, you passed the Petroleum Commission Act, all to ensure that there's transparency, there's accountability, so that the system can respond to the needs and aspirations of the country. Now let's go to the achievements of Akufo-Addo. And that's why I said I want to handle Akufo-Addo a bit in terms of what he's been able to achieve. The first thing the Akufo-Addo administration did was to declare 5 million liters of fuel as contaminated fuel and sold it at knockdown prices to Movenpina. That was the first achievement. Then, I told you that we increased electricity from 54 to 83. For the past 2 years, if you go and read the 2019 budget, President Akufo-Addo, despite having inherited the Hunan project and the China water project from President Mahama, they've increased access from 83 to 84%. So whilst we are doing 4% per annum, President Akufo-Addo is doing 0.5% per annum. And then you turn around and come and complain that there's excess capacity. There's excess capacity. Because you are not investing in the sector. If you had invested in the sector, you won't have the amount of excess capacity you are witnessing. He's increased fuel price by 30%. And worst of all, instead of using the ESLA levies in a transparent manner, you and I, we have witnessed the high level of premise diversion as far as the premise secretariat is concerned. Then the ESLA levies, they are completely mismanaging it. The minister borrowed 141 million of it for his budgetary support. Just when I checked, he had borrowed another 600 million to pay for pensions. And so the act or the levies that they resisted, the one that they said they were not part of and described President Mahama as a devil, they are keeping the levies, they are taking the revenues, they are not using it for intended purposes, but they are rather using it for other purposes. Let's go on. Because of the policies they are pursuing, and I want to walk you, please, and the policies we pursued. This is ECG. In 2016, ECG made a profit of 725 million cedis. 2017, under Akufo-Addo, they made a loss of 521 million. 2018, they made a loss of 3 billion. 2019, they are projecting a loss of 6 billion. And so in the past 1, 2, 3 years, they are projecting to make a loss of 9.521 billion. This is fresh debt, not legacy debt. Then the next one, if you take Gridco, during your time as president, Gridco made a profit of 69.1 million. 2017, they made a loss of 31 million. 2018, they made a loss of 118 million. 2019, they are projecting to make a loss of 345 million. Then the next one, I'm just trying to let you know what their policies has led us to. This is Buidam. Buidam sold power, 99 million. They received only $22 million. So they made a loss of $77 million. But the worst of them is the way they are managing the dam. This is what they plan to do in terms of drafting the dam. That is the water. This first quarter, they were doing well. Second quarter, they tried. Third quarter, they tried. Then fourth quarter, when we started experiencing doom, so because they couldn't pay the IPPs, they quickly decided that they would draft the water more and more. And so this green light represents what they actually did as against what they planned to do. So you realize that they are drafting the dam, and if we don't take time, very soon the integrity of the dam will be at stake. Let's go on. The IPPs, they are owed $200 million. Ghana Gas's debt is reached $735 million today. ENI is owed $160 million. Because of that, last 2 weeks, GMPC came to the Mines and Energy Committee asking that we should give them permission to borrow $250 million. We thought that they were going to do some capital investments. When we asked them, they told us that they are going to use it to pay for fuels. $250 million just to use it on consumption. That is the state of the energy sector today. Ladies and gentlemen, President Akufo-Addo said something, and I just want to deal with this, and the rest I'm sure would have another time to check them through. He said he inherited $2.4 billion of debt from President Mahama. And like Fifi was saying, as president, you must be honest. You can't just think that you can deceive the people. Let's go to the next slide. This is what he said. He said that I am clearing Mahama's 2.4 billion energy debt. And he said it outside of Ghana. If he had said it, he at least would have managed him. But this one, he's gone outside of Ghana. But you see, the facts will always expose you. Let's go to the next slide. This is information presented to investors for the ESLA PLC, submitted by Ken Oforiatta. He says that as at 31st August, the debt, the total debt, using an exchange rate of 4.4, if you convert it to dollars, it was 2.1 billion. So despite what they inherited from us, including the debt they compounded and added it and increased it, it was 2.1 billion. So how can you increase the debt from a lower figure to 2.1 billion, turn around and tell Ghanaians that you inherited a debt of 2.4 billion? This can only be chop-bar economics or chop-bar analysis. I don't think that this is how you do things. Then let's go on. Recently, let's go on. I will deal with this at another lecture. This is Ameu. This is Boachia Jako. Boachia Jako tells us that he has reviewed PPAs, 11 of them. He saved 7.8 billion Ghana cedi. Ameu takes over. He says that the same PPAs, he has also reviewed them. He saved 6.8 billion. So among these two, who can you believe, who do you trust, and who can you deal with? But you see, like I said, the truth and the fact would always expose you. When you look at the next slide, this is ECG, their presentation to Parliament. It was presented in March 2009. And as you see, that's ECG's March 2019. This is ECG's logo. We interrogated them as a committee. How many thermal plants have you signed in terms of PPA? These are the thermal plants, 14. How many thermal plants have you cancelled in terms of PPA? That's the figure, 0. So the one who signed the contract says that I haven't cancelled any contract. The minister sits in his office and he says that he has cancelled 11 contracts. And among the two, you don't even know who is telling the truth and who is lying. That is the problem we are facing. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I think that there's another issue going on, and all of us must watch out. There's a deliberate attempt by the Akufo-Addo government to repaint, appropriate President Mahama's achievements, commission them, and present them as if they are his achievements. This is the BXC Solar Project. The BXC Solar Project was completed in June 2016. Having failed to achieve anything in 2 years, President Akufo-Addo writes to Central Region. He goes to commission the same project that you completed and claims that it is part of his one district, one factory. If you can't achieve your own targets, must you go and take President Mahama's projects, appropriate them, and present them as yours? And this is happening in different sectors of the economy. So I think we must watch out and be very vigilant as far as some of these things are concerned. Now, I would leave the slides. I'm sure we'll have another time. There are quite a lot. Recently, they've talked about the ENI gas project and stated that it's stranded. And they sought to blame President Mahama for it. I just used 30 seconds to deal with that issue. President Mahama signed the ENI gas project. And now, President Mahama sought to do is that he knew that the gas was coming. So he tasked us that the car power plant, the 450, it should not come to Tema. Originally, the 450 was supposed to go to Takoradi. But because we're having energy challenges, he said, let's do a fast-track one. Bring the 225 to Tema and begin to evacuate power. So that is a stopgap measure. But then as for the 450, when it's ready in 2017, let it go to Takoradi. By the time it is anchored, the ENI gas would have been ready so that car power would have off-take it. And this is what we're doing. We even had a gas master plan. We did the feasibility study until they took over. They suspended the program and said that they were investigating us. It took them 2 years. They delayed the project. When the 450 finally came, they took it back to Tema. So you are sleeping on the job. You are snoring on the job. You fail to pursue President Mahama's programs. And today, when you are supposed to pay $32 million every month because of your inertia and incompetence, you turn around and blame President Mahama. In conclusion, we handed over a resilient, strong, vibrant, dedicated energy sector to Akufo-Addo. What he has done is to turn President Mahama's programs upside down, mismanage the sector. And today, we are witnessing doomsday. We are witnessing doomsday. They claim for 12 days and yet they will not publish the load shedding timetable. 12 days, you won't publish the load shedding timetable. But I am telling you that the sector is financially bankrupt. If we don't face the truth, and if they don't call some of us to support them, so that even in the interest of the nation, we put aside our party colors and give them some simple advice, one day, they will run the energy sector to the ground and we will not have electricity again. President Mahama, I salute you. This is your track record. We are proud of you. You achieved a lot in the energy sector, and no amount of vilification, no amount of bastardizing will take away your achievement as far as the energy sector is concerned.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. God bless us all.
Thank you very much, Honorable John Jimapo, for that surgical evisceration of the falsehoods of the MPP. Ladies and gentlemen, due to time constraints, we will zoom straight into a questions and answer session, during which our two high-profile ladies will help provide answers. So I will take, in the name of time, just 5 questions from members of the audience. Everybody is limited to just 1 question, no lengthy, winding preamble. Go straight to your question, and they would be answered. So please put up your hand. Please put up your hand if you happen to have a question. Yeah. Yeah, but, okay, all right. Okay. All right. Okay, well, we have had some protest from the audience.